Good morning. Perfidy in Washington. What happened on Friday with Barack Hussein Obama was an act of cowardice and perfidy. But I wish to explain it in context of the Torah portion of that day and the result that the Torah says will happen. When Egypt decided not to promote the declaration that Israel is in violation of international law for the territories, I said it was a miracle because it should have happened, because behind it was the movement of the president. And there was no question in my mind that this was orchestrated by the president and that this would be revealed, and that's the reason why Egypt got cold feet. But the president decided that he was going to have an excuse, and this went from the great liberal state of human rights called Venezuela, where they have so many rights. They have rights to have no money, no food, and to be completely dominated by the vicious government. So Venezuela, which has a history of abuse of its own citizens and murdering tens of thousands of people, and drug cartels and corruption up to their eyeballs, they are going to be the ones in judging. They who are the allies of Fidel Castro and the allies of North Korea and the allies of Putin, they're going to go ahead and judge the Jewish state. Senegal, great liberators, West Africa, and of course New Zealand, where they have more sheep than people. That bastion of human rights and of concern for human rights and dignity. When hundreds of thousands of Arabs are murdered by Assad, where Coptic Christians are murdered on a daily basis in Egypt, where there is terror sent all over the world, those tyrants and those dictators will go ahead and will judge whether it is legal for Jews to live in Hebron or in Shechem or in Yerushalayim, Jerusalem, which belongs to the Jewish people, the eternal capital of the Jewish people. In fact, the religions of those countries all say that this is the Holy Land and it belongs to the people of Israel, or the Jews. There are no other peoples of Israel that identify as people of Israel. The perfidy of this president was that he didn't have the guts to stand up before the November elections to do this, because he knew this would adversely affect the Democratic Party. And he did so on a weekend when people were going on vacation, so they couldn't get themselves all riled up. And so he did so willfully, maliciously, and then he wasn't finished. He's going to send John Kerry to issue a major speech on this. Instead of lecturing Assad and lecturing Putin on human rights, he's going to lecture Israel to give up territory that is necessary for their own survival, besides the fact that it is Jewish land, not Arab land. For your information, Mr. President, thousands of Jews lived in Hebron before 1929, and they were murdered and thrown out of their homes. What makes Hebron an Arab area? Hebron was the place of the patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. The Arabs only claim Abraham as their patriarch, not Isaac, not Jacob. They have no rights to that land. Not to Hebron, not to Shechem. Nablus is Shechem, and certainly not to Yerushalayim, Jerusalem. The reason why you did so, Mr. President, is because you hate the Jewish people and hate Israel. You can't say that openly, because it's not PC. But you will say you support a two-state solution with Israel not being able to defend itself, with having close to 2 million Quislings in their borders. What right do the Arabs have to Jewish land? None. There never was a Palestine. Palestine did not exist. In fact, the area was occupied by Jordan, and America said nothing during those 19 years of occupation. East Jerusalem is not Arab East Jerusalem. East Jerusalem was populated 65% by Jews before 1948. East Jerusalem was a Jewish city, as was Hebron. And the so-called West Bank is the traditional land of Judea and Samaria. Judea being Jewish land, Samaria being the group of people called the 10 tribes who lived in that area. So it doesn't belong to the Arabs, never belonged to the Arabs, never was a state called Palestine. Jews had to defend themselves and got back their own land. And they've got every right to live there. The fact that the Arabs don't want Jews living there is just discrimination and prejudice, which you would oppose. You would oppose somebody telling anyone, whether it was a person of color or a person of a different religion, can't live in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. But in Bethlehem, which is the city of David, the Arabs don't want a single Jew living there. And if Jews live there, they will murder them. So this is an act of perfidy against the religions of the world, perfidy against the Jewish people, and perfidy against the principles upon which our great country was built upon. Israel is a country of law, a country of human rights and dignity, unlike any of the Arab lands. Shame on you, Mr. President.